Another day, another CV review, and this time we've got someone from Spain submitting their CV. And I'm not familiar with the Spanish academic system, but just off these bullet points and GPAs alone, it's clear that this person is doing really, really well. Let's look at the formatting first. And there I would say that the person needs to be just a little bit more consistent in terms of their use of spacing and gaps. For example, there's no gap between the different parts of their education, but there are gaps between the different bits of work experience. I also think there's still room to fit in some more experience while still keeping the CV to one page. For example, they've mentioned that they were a class rep for 2 years, which I think is a good leadership position to be talking about. And you can probably find this space just by making a couple of tweaks. For example, reducing the space at the top of the page and also combining the job title and company lines together. Looking now at the person's first bit of work experience at Renter for Banco, I would say that generally some of these bullet points are a tad bit too vague and they need to add a little bit more detail. In particular, this first and third bullet point, saying that you used data-driven analysis isn't enough. You need to be talking about more about what you did, and same with leading an end-to-end client process. What did that actually entail? I also think that they can probably combine a couple of sentences together, especially where there's a bit of repetition in some of the points. For example, the second and fourth bullet point talk about using attention to detail, so you can probably combine those into a more comprehensive one bullet point sentence. Looking now at the next section, I think it's great that they've highlighted their volunteering experience. It shows that they're a really well-rounded individual. I'd maybe suggest calling it leadership and volunteering experience and then adding in something about that class rep position that I mentioned or any other leadership position that they might have had. It would also be good to see the person using numerical figures to back up the degree of impact that they've had within these roles. Finally, there's the additional section, and honestly, I think it's pretty good. They've got all the relevant things in there without any fluff. However, if there was one line that I would say to remove in case they were running out of space elsewhere in their CV, it would be the certificates line, just because I think it adds relatively less value compared to everything else in the additional section.